Hey there, you found Cameras and Car Seats, the podcast for photographers who are tired of being told to hustle harder while trying to remember if you grabbed diapers at your last Target run. I'm Jamie, your destination adventure elopement photographer who somehow manages to adventure with couples while raising tiny humans.
And I'm Alex, holding down the Lincoln logs in the Midwest traditional wedding scene, proving you can crush those weekend weddings and still make it to family dinner. If you're editing in the pickup line, scheduling client calls during nap time, or just trying to figure out how to run a profitable photography business without sacrificing your family life, you're in the right place. We're dropping real, actionable advice that actually works for mom photographers.
No bro marketing, no toxic hustle culture, just two photographer moms keeping it real about making this whole business thing work while raising our families. So grab your watered down iced coffee.
Ignore that pile of laundry for another hour or day.
And let's dive into today's episode. Hey guys, so we wanted to answer a question that we got on Threads. Was it Threads?
It was Threads.
Okay, so this person asked, what do you do for your onboarding? Do you do client calls, consult calls? And we got to thinking, we're like, yeah, let's talk about our onboarding when it comes to sessions, our onboarding when it comes to weddings, elopements, and even our offboarding and after the session, after the whole after process. So let's just dive in. Let's talk about what we actually do.
I'm ready. Okay, so let's start with session. Let's start from the
Let's do this.
Let's start from the beginning. Mini sessions.
Mini sessions. Do you do them?
I don't. Well, no, I don't anymore.
Okay.
I used to. And then I stopped doing those, and now I'm not really doing sessions too much anymore either. So, let's talk about mini sessions and like how we would run those. And I can talk about how I did run mine when I did.
Okay, so
do you do mini sessions?
I do mini sessions, but I have a hard boundary with my mini sessions. For the most part, they are reserved for repeat clients only. So they either have to have already had their wedding with me or have a wedding booked with me, elopement, or they've been repeat clients for years, which is why like every fall when my clients, like I'm out doing sessions every fall, these are clients I've had for years and I love them.
I love that though, because then you know who they are, what to expect. And it's not like, okay, how is this going to go? I had to meet them all over again. You know what I mean? Like you already know them.
Yeah. And it makes mini sessions for me easier and it doesn't necessarily feel like a time constraint. But I also have gotten to know this client so well. I know what photos they print. I know what photos they don't care for, whether like not necessarily that they don't like me or my style. I just know what they gravitate towards, what they post, what they print, because I go to their houses. I have one client actually that they hand me their hard drive and I back up everything for them. So like they have everything from 2017 now to 2025, multiple babies, like 4 babies now, a wedding, an engagement, so many different things. And I just back it up for them. It's just part of their service now.
I love that. Okay, let's talk about the whole flow of the sessions for mini sessions, whether it's repeat clients or whether you are just out there doing the most, right? How does your workflow go for a mini session? Okay, wait. Can I pause? Can we say that we're also prefacing this with the fact that to do these things stress-free, realistically, you need a CRM.
Yep. And make sure it's Dubsado.
And make sure it's Honeybook.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to cut the last 15 seconds where Alex talked. No. But seriously, your CRM will make this so much easier for onboarding. So my process when it comes to onboarding a session, I typically do no consult call. But some of my sessions do require a consult call. So every now and again, I will take on a senior session, whether I know their parents, whether I met them through a wedding or something. Usually the reason I'm taking on that senior session is they're already in my network in some way or another. But I love doing senior sessions or branding sessions. So those 2 sessions for me require that it has to be a consult because I want to know your vision. I want to know your goals. I want to know what lights you up because to me, senior sessions and branding sessions are super similar. It's just a senior, you're a senior in high school. A branding, it's the grown-up adult version of a senior session.
Okay, that's so true though.
And it's like, I want to know what you want. I want to know what sets your creativity on fire. And I also feel like I can get to know you more because this isn't like a couple session. This isn't a wedding. I'm not building a love story. I'm building a connection between my camera and you. And I need to know that I can do that. So that's why I do require a consult for those kinds of sessions. Family sessions, I don't, just because I'm telling the story of your family. And I can usually do that just by observing.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Okay. So when I say I don't do sessions anymore, I do when people ask me. Like you were saying, I have a few like seniors I did last year or anything like that. But as far as like advertising them, I don't really do that anymore.
We don't market to them.
Right. But if they ask, usually I'll do it. But I don't do consult calls for those things. I don't for any of my sessions, seniors. I don't do branding really, but like seniors and families, I do not do a consult call. I do questionnaires, lots of questionnaires.
Which I feel like some clients prefer everything to be email questionnaires, boom, done. I feel like the clients that I attract for branding and also like if it's a senior session like that, the way I put it out there is it's like, I have to get to know you. In order for me to open up and you to open up, there's got to be communication. There's got to be that trust. And to build trust, we got to talk.
Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to sessions with that, let's say an inquiry hits your inbox. Like, walk me through that.
Okay, so if it's a session, they will get my autoresponder stating my boundaries, what they can expect. And from there, in that email, it's like you will get a personal response from me in X amount of time. Typically, it says 24 hours, but then it's like a little fun personality note. JK, it's probably going to be 10 minutes. Just because I am really fast at responding to things. I don't know how that always works out. It just does. But then from there, I'll send out, depending on what session it is, I'll send out a questionnaire so I can get like the gist of what they're looking for. And then once I read over the questionnaire, if I decide, actually I'm a perfect photographer or no, I think you'd be best for this photographer, I either send them on their way or I have them book a consult call, or if it's a session that doesn't require a consult call, it's just a proposal where they can book their session. And then from there, it's automated to do contract, invoice, and then have them secure their session with a payment. And then my whole workflow of onboarding is automated. So it'll also send my calendar for them to book in their date for their session, depending on what they booked. And then I have all of my emails automated. I don't even think for my session ones, I have to tweak any of those for the most part, because it's sending out style guides, it's sending out check-ins, it's sending reminders. And then I will still go in and talk to them, of course. But like the best part about my onboarding workflow through Dubsado is I can be hands off, and it's great because when people book me when I'm not available, they're still getting my full service.
Yes. Automations change the game for real. So when I book a session, like let's say the inquiry hits my inbox, I'll figure out if I'm available or not and then respond to them. I also have an autoresponder as well, but I actually don't have an autoresponder for my sessions. I only have it for my engagements and wedding workflow. Just because there's so few and far between. So I will reach out and let them know if I'm available. And then with that email, I send my pricing guide. So in there, they can look over my pricing, ask me any questions that they might have, and then they can like select what package they want. So then in that proposal will automate like their invoice and contract everything. So they can just book it right there.
I was gonna say mine, when I said that earlier, legit same thing with Dubsado. It has the pricing. They can pick their package, pay, contract. I know sometimes if you are not familiar with Dubsado or Honeybook, the language can get kind of confusing, but all of my pricing and everything is in there. So that's why they can, select a package and keep moving on through the workflow, through the funnel, whatever you want to call it.
Which is so nice because you don't have to, I feel like before the automation and workflow thing, it was like, okay, yes, we would like to book. Okay, great. When? It was like an email chain back and forth.
I don't want to do that.
Like, oh, okay, I can select my package. Oh, okay, I can book here. Like it's all seamless in one spot. And I know it's the same for both of us. So that's how I do that. And then immediately after they book, that's when I will like more so even personally like reach out and figure out, okay, here's the date, here's the time, here's your vision. And then I send that questionnaire. And on that questionnaire, that's basically like your consult call, but I do it in that questionnaire. So it's like, tell me everything about you, you know, like really getting to know them, almost like a first date kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I feel like we do the same steps, slightly different order. It just depends if I'm doing a consult call or not with them. If I am, then I do that step ahead of time. If I'm not, then it happens in the questionnaire.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So do you have anything else to add about sessions and session workflow?
I feel like for the most part, that legit is my entire workflow. I start to get it personalized once I love reading my client's questionnaire. Cause
It's
I'm just
so fun.
like when they are vulnerable with me, I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like, thank you for trusting me with that information. I got you.
And that comes down to asking the right questions too, right? Like
Yeah.
instead of just being like, what kind of photos do you want? Where? Okay. Like I do have a lot of like, what are some of your favorite things? What's your favorite music? Like it really is kind of like a first date.
Well, and also pro tip, if you don't have this in your questionnaire, especially if you are in the Midwest, I have a question in there with photo examples. Do you like overcast light only, no sunlight? Do you like sunset golden hour, right? Like perfectly golden? Do you like a little bit brighter, more direct sunlight, so that they can see what their session could look like, what their preferences are for rescheduling. And that way it's like, they're already in their mind, like a boundary. It's like, oh, if I want my photos to look like this, I'm gonna have to reschedule it if it's cloudy that day, because we all know fall is unpredictable and it can go from a perfectly gorgeous morning to a super cloudy, dark, gloomy, not fun to shoot in kind of day.
Yes. Okay. I love that too, because I ask that, but I ask it in a question, like without photos. I'll say like, do you want something vibey? Do you want something like warm and glowy? But I do photo responses like that in my wedding one about receptions. I say, do you want direct flash? Do you want like the ambiance, or do you want a mix of both? Do you like shutter drag? Do you not? But I don't say shutter drag. I say it in like normal people speak,
yes.
right? I'm like, do you like the fun, like lights,
The party vibe?
Yes.
Do you like the crazy?
So I do that with my wedding questionnaire on the reception.
That is such a good, like I don't shoot as many receptions as you do, but I like setting them up so that, not like setting them up, but it's like you are setting the stage for what they can expect in their gallery. Because yes, we do send clients full gallery, especially new clients, like, hey, this is what your gallery could look like because I have shot at that venue, but do you like these kinds of things? And I feel like it customizes it more for the client. They feel like you're understanding them, but also don't just send these things and don't read them. Like actually listen to what your client wants and then deliver on it.
Yes. Most of the time my clients always pick that they want both, right? Because they want some like fun, clean ones, but then they also want some like party ones. But it is fun to get to know some of my clients on a deeper level, because some of mine are way more chill and are like, I want everything to be a vibe. Like they're like, just play around.
Yeah. Well, and like that's what makes it fun is like you have your automated onboarding process, but then once you can start to get personal with it, that's when I feel like the magic happens, because that's when you figure out the little details, and everybody knows it's the little details that count.
It's the little things. Okay, let's talk about weddings. And I feel like this is going to differ exponentially because we shoot very different things.
Well, and also I feel like there's more of an onboarding process to weddings and elopements versus sessions. But for the most part, I feel like we broke down sessions perfectly. But wedding wise, consult for me is mandatory. If you are going, wedding or elopement, if you're going to invest thousands of dollars with me, I am going to invest just as much, if not more time back into you.
I will not book a wedding without booking a consult. I want to see you. I want to get to know you. I want to make sure that we vibe well. I want to make sure that we can have a conversation. I want to hear what's important to you. Like my consults, I feel like I've really nailed in the last like year of really figuring out what questions to ask them that speak to my brand, but also speak to them to get to know them, to make sure that they mesh. Because I've had consults where it's like, they tell me what's most important to them. And it's like, oh, like, I don't think I'm that person for you. Like if you want those like pictures that are super formal and like everything is like perfect and you like, I'm not
off camera flash, even as an example. Not saying off camera flash is a bad thing. Like just two different kinds of photographers, a flash heavy photographer, a more natural light and flash out reception photographer.
Exactly. And I'm more so the type of like candid and like in the moment. And no, I'm not going to stop you to like brush a piece of hair out of your face just because like that's in the moment. And so really learning that couple is how you do that over the consult call. So consults are just so incredibly important.
Yeah, because I was going to say, for me, it's so inquiry. Inquiry will get an autoresponder saying, hey, I got your inquiry. Expect a response from me. In the meantime, here's a welcome video welcoming you to JTP. So off the bat, they can already get a sense of my personality. But then after that, I review to make sure I have their date open. If I do have their date open, I send them a personalized email, like just saying what they said in their inquiry form. Like, hey, we are a good fit. This is awesome. I have your date open. Here's my pricing guide. And in that pricing guide, it has a link to book a call with me. From there, we'll go to the consult. From there, we'll go to contract invoice. And then from there, it's let's start this process. If it's a wedding, here's this workflow. If it's an elopement, here's this workflow. But it all comes down to questionnaires, communication, timelines, what to expect when, and then delivering it.
Yes. And I know that we do that exact same thing, like to a T. I have the welcome video, like we do all of that.
Well, and it's tried and true. It works for us.
It does. It does. And I love it. And one thing that I love is, again, having everything in one spot, but can I throw in a little tip about a pricing guide?
As long as it's spicy.
Always spicy. So I know that question specifically also did ask, do you send a pricing guide and like how and when and et cetera? One tip I have for pricing guides is if you get an inquiry and you see like, oh, it's at this venue. I've shot there before. I love that. I will go in and edit the images in my pricing guide to be that venue or to fit the vibe of that wedding. Like if they're like, oh, we're having a garden party theme wedding, I will go in and use like the cabin Airbnb wedding that I shot that was garden themed. And I will put those images in there because then they're like, oh, like
it's subconsciously telling them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wait, that's our venue. She's been there.
Yes. I will tweak that to fit their vision so then they can see themselves in those images.
I also include like blog links.
Yes.
So like if we're thinking about eloping X and I'm like, oh, I have a blog on that. I've actually shot there. And like, I want to show even more authority that you are reaching out to the right person. I cannot wait to help you. This is how I can help you. This is what sets me apart from the competition. This is why we need to work together right now.
Yes. Okay. Do you have any, I'm backtracking a little bit, but I just thought about it. Do you have any specific questions that you ask during a consult that is like your magic question?
That's so funny because I was going to ask you the same thing. I was like, what's your favorite question to ask people? One of my favorite things is I like to do imagine if statements in a way. So it's like, imagine it's your wedding day. What are you doing? And then like, okay, imagine it's 1 year later. How do you know you picked the right photographer? How do you know you picked the right venue? How do you know like why? And then like they start to like tell stories and they start to like actually visualize everything. And it's not just like, so how'd you propose? Oh, I popped a question. Like it's the questions that get them to open up without them realizing it. But it's also me being able to hear how they start to talk about each other, because how they talk about each other also determines if we're a good fit. And I don't know if everyone does that, but in my mind, I'm like, if they are speaking about each other in a certain way and I'm already going to start tearing up, I'm like, I have to shoot your wedding.
Yes. And if they're a little bit more reserved and like quiet, I'm like, that's probably not the best fit. Like I love
and
when
that's
my
not
couples,
a bad thing. It's just personality wise.
just for me, because I know the older I get, the more outgoing I get.
Yeah.
And the more that I'm just like, let's go.
The more kids I have, the more I'm like, yeah.
And I'm pretty blunt on my consult calls too. So like when I ask them about booking and stuff like that, I will always say, like, if you guys decide that I'm the right fit and you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like I'm going to sign the contract and we decided like Alex is chill. Let's roll with it. Like that's literally how I talk on my consult calls.
I feel like people are always talking about how their consult calls go good. And for the most part, I feel like everyone's consult calls do go good if your marketing's on point, if your website's on point. If you're trying to attract those people will reach out to you. Every once in a blue moon, you have someone that just Googles contact form, hit send. And I've had those consult calls where I've legit had to say, I don't think we're a good fit. And I think in this moment, if I'm to offer you advice, if you're like, how do I do that? Sit in front of your mirror and just practice saying it. Like, this is high school speech class. Just practice saying, hey, I'm glad that that's what you want. Unfortunately, I don't think we're a good fit. This isn't something I currently offer. You don't have to like put them down or degrade or anything. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, this isn't what I currently offer. I think you would be better suited over here. Or if it's like a total red flag where you're like, I don't even want to send this to my friends, don't say anything. Just say, hey, thanks for taking the time to meet me. I don't think we're going to be a good fit. But I'm wishing you a happy wedding day. And then, or another tip, this might be a poor tip, is I purposely tank the call sometimes, where I stop asking like other questions and I just kind of let it slowly fizzle out until we can get to the goodbye. And that might be just the awkward Midwest holding the door thing. But
I definitely think it helps ease if you can like offer referrals, or if you actually genuinely do know somebody in the back of your mind that you're like, but you know what? I have a couple of photographers who I think would be a great fit for you.
And usually I do. Like, if people are coming to me.
Sometimes we don't.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a complete red flag and you have no clue how they got there. And other times it's like, oh, if you want this, you need to reach out to this person right now. Like, I have met so many photographers over the years where I know their style. I know what they love. The funny part is I say meet and half of you are all on Instagram. We have virtually met, but like, it's okay to say no on a consult call. And I've had those calls that I've gotten off of where I had to say no. And I was kind of confused in a way. I'm like, why did you reach out to me if you were insulting my portfolio, if you actually don't like the way I shoot? And it's like, well, that's fine.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so my favorite question to ask during a consult call is, when you think of your wedding day and you think of photography on your wedding day, what is the most important thing to you? And then I'll kind of give answers, because that's a loaded question, right?
Right.
So I'll say, is it the style of the images? Is it your relationship with a photographer? Is it like, and then I'll just say, I will say, I know that's a little bit of a loaded question, but what is the most important thing to you? And because we're in the Midwest and because of my brand, 99% of the time, the answer is, we just want images that show how we really are with all of our family. We have a lot of family and we want images with all of our family. And then I reiterate it back, because there's something psychologically that when you repeat what your client says, or potential client says to you, it validates their statement in their head. Like, there's a psychology behind it. And so when they answer that, I'm like, okay, yeah, like, I love that.
I hear that.
I love being the photographer that is getting all the candidates of all your family, because they traveled to be there with you, and it's the most important thing. And we live in the Midwest, and Midwest is all about family, and it's all about your mom's friends, cousins, whatever. So like, I will reiterate that back to them. So it's like, you're heard, you're seen.
Yes. And I was gonna say, I think there's a book that talks about this more too. I think it's is it Winning Friend? Like, how to make friends
and influence people?
Yeah. I can't think of, I feel like I can see the book in my head. I think it's like white and red. But like, I feel like it talks about like the different psychology. And I also am super big. I feel like here's my spicy hot take. It rubs me the wrong way when photographers are like, well, I can't remember people's names. And I'm like, did you try? Because it's so personal when someone calls you by your name and they actually are like looking at you. They mean it. They know your name. They are trying, versus like, oh yeah, that's cool. What's your venue again? Or something like that. Like, coming to the meeting prepared, you know their name, you know their venue, you know their guest count. Those little things matter. Which
you can all keep in your CRM.
Yes.
By the way. Also, that book is called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Okay. I was going to say, it sounded like chicken fry or something. I don't know.
A little bit of chicken fry.
But yeah, using people's names, researching, like, if you spend 5 to 10 minutes reading over that consult, looking up that venue, looking up photo spots around it, and then coming to that meeting prepared, you're already showing that client that you're invested. So the onboarding is going to go that much more smoothly.
I have 2 more tips when it comes to your consult call and personalizing it and like giving that great experience. One, which this is something Honeybook has. Sorry, not sorry. They have an AI note taker that joins your Zoom meeting, and it literally writes an entire transcript of your meeting. So then I can look back and be like, what was the thing they said, or where did they work? It's not always perfect. It's AI. So sometimes it's a little trippy. If you don't have that, my other tip is either screen record on your computer or voice record on your phone. Because then you can go back and you can write down notes. I know, I think Dubsado has this too, where it has like a notes section in a project. And so you can be like, okay, they work here, they have this. I like to know that stuff because it helps me tell a story better.
Well, and I also like to keep a call log for onboarding. And then like, these are the points we talked about. And then I do my meetings on Zoom and I just record my Zoom meetings. And I don't think that's weird because I feel like the majority of my clients, they're investing thousands of dollars. And it's like, if they ask like, oh, hey, this meeting's being recorded. I'm like, yeah, because I want to make sure I don't miss any important moments and I can come back to this meeting and look through our notes and know exactly what we talked about so that I'm always prepared.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing that I love about mine too is it'll have highlights. It'll say like the most important thing about their call, what they're looking for. Like it'll like project laid out. And so even if you're voice recording that or screen recording that, like you can go back and write those highlights. It also helps when you are making a blog post or making a social media post, because you can say, meet so-and-so, they met in college doing this, and now they're both doing this. And you don't have to remember that. Like it's already taken note and it basically is a post written for itself.
I was going to say, like, if we fast forward to the during process, if we're past the onboarding process, as mostly an elopement photographer now, I take so many notes during their elopement and I Voxer myself, or I will just go into my Apple Notes and I will name it their names and I will start talking about the weather. I will start talking about the morning. I will start talking about what they're doing. And like, yes, I know I'm documenting it with photos, but just like adding little bullet points throughout the day, it helps me write that blog post later, but then it also helps me personalize their aftercare box in my offboarding process. So after their wedding, when I go to deliver their wedding box, I know what photos I want to print because I already know what moments were super high key during the day, like what was super emotional, what I know they're going to remember. And then I can go back to that, like you said, write a blog post. I can go back to that. And even I send out like anniversary emails a year on their 1 year anniversary, and I can go back and highlight those moments again because I wrote them down. And it's like, if you're serving so many clients a year, that's like my best tip. Like
I use my notes religiously on a wedding day, and I can remember specifically one where I wrote down the notes and I was like, I have to get my phone super fast to write this down so I don't forget it. And I was shooting a wedding. And the bride's shoes were so fun because they were like bright colored and had butterflies all over them. And that was because like her grandma loved butterflies. And then like their hairpins had butterflies. Like there's butterflies everywhere. And I was like, I have to write this down right now. And so then when I was able to remember it, know that those butterflies were important on the day, and then share about it, like it makes a world's difference.
Well, and I also feel like it's such a good tip too, if you have an associate team. Because then, like, if you're sending one of your associates, but you're the one doing all the work, you might not specifically know why that associate took that photo. But if they have notes where they can be like, yeah, they did this at this moment, and then everybody was emotional and this person was crying, and then when they go to deliver those photos, they know this moment was important.
Exactly. I love that. Okay, so when it comes to sending out pricing with weddings, do you do that initially or do you wait until you talk with them to do that?
I personally send it beforehand, but I also have starting pricing all over my website. So I have starting prices on my website. I have my 4 main packages in my pricing guide, and I also put in my email, my prices start at X. My clients typically invest X to X. If this is a good fit for you, let's take the next steps, because I really do want to keep qualifying. I don't want there to be any surprises. Yes, with my pricing and where I'm at in my career, it might bottleneck it in a way, but at the same time, they weren't going to book if they weren't going to book.
Exactly. It saves them time and it saves you time.
Right.
That's why I list my starting pricing on my website too. And then when they initially inquire and if I send that email that's like, yes, I'm available, I'll send my whole pricing guide with that, and then they can see everything. So then they book a call after they've seen it. So we both know like, okay, you know what your boundaries are. I know what mine are. we're good, we're going to meet. And then it's usually a good fit from there.
Well, and I have spent so many years now making sure that my offer is very much value stacked and value heavy, that they know this isn't just a number pulled out of my butt. Like
Right.
this is the value behind it. This is everything I want to do for you. This is how I'm going to take care of you. This is how I'm going to solve your problem right now and solve it well, versus you having to struggle and book someone at a different price point that's not going to do it the same way I'm going to do it.
Right. And that's another thing too, is it's like, that's why people aren't good fit sometimes, like aren't a good fit for you sometimes, because maybe they do just want photos, but then there are the people that do want to invest because they know that you're taking care of X, Y, Z, and you have all this experience and you offer all of these things, and that's important to them. And so not just being like, oh, well, here's what you get for the photos, but like, here's how I'm going to help you. Here's all the things.
Features versus benefits.
Yes.
Value stacking versus just listing USB 10 photos, $100 or however.
If somebody's shooting a wedding for $100.
I'm not going to lie. There was a keyword on Google the other night that was like $99 wedding. And I'm like, what?
$99 wedding.
We made a funny joke on our threads the other day that we're moms in business. We don't watch TV. We watch our Google Analytics.
We watch analytics.
But like,
what show are you watching?
Analytics. And I'm watching my real-time Google to see who's on my website and what state and what country. But it's entertaining. And I feel like before we get too rambly on this episode, we kind of went hard a little bit all over the place with onboarding, sessions, weddings, elopements. I really am curious to see what you take away from this episode.
Any other questions that you guys have?
Yeah. So if you can send me a DM after you listen to this episode, send it to Cameras and Car Seats. Tell us what you loved about this episode. If you have more questions about onboarding, if you should try something, if you shouldn't.
If you want us to dive deeper onto something.
Yeah, we are an open book, and I know you guys are loving the show right now, and we're loving that you're loving it. So just send us anything and everything. Facebook group, Instagram, threads. We can't wait to hear from you.
We are so excited.
All right. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the show. Before you leave, I have one more little thing for you. I am loving reading all of your DMs and your voice messages and interacting with you on threads. It's just been so much fun. And we are getting ready to launch the biggest project we have ever done. And it's directly geared to help you and your business, to help you figure out family boundaries, work boundaries, figure out what gaps might be going on in your business, and excel you in only 6 weeks' time. So I want to introduce you to the Mom Tog Mastermind. Live coaching calls. It's going to be me and Alex. We're going to dive into your business. We're going to answer every question. Nothing is off limits. We're going to dive into your CRM, whether you choose HoneyBook or Dubsado like me, but we are going to help break down all of these barriers and build you back up, because you deserve to thrive in your family life and in your business life. Can't wait to see you in the Mom Tog Mastermind. Make sure you get on it quick though, because we're limiting it to 10 spots only, so that we can actually give every photographer hands-on personalized experience with this coaching. So go set your calendars, come find us. Our website is live and you'll see everything in the show notes. Can't wait to see you in the mastermind. Okay, bye.